Good morning and welcome to another edition of Off the Grid with Sara Overal. I'm glad you're here with me this morning. This morning's a little bit different of a conversation as we in the Dallas Metroplex area are again dealing with another issue to do with our Dallas police officers. And just want to say here that according to the WFAA Channel 8 ABC report here, we have a news report about officers who were shot yesterday at a Dallas Home Depot. It says here in their article, the officers were identified yesterday from a Northeast division. They have served for 3 years together. They both went to the same academy. The two Dallas Police Department officers were critically wounded in a shooting at a Home Depot store in North Dallas on Tuesday afternoon, and a person of interest was arrested after a chase near downtown several hours later. A loss prevention officer at the store, who is a civilian, also was shot in the incident at the US 75 and Forest Lane Home Depot location. All three victims were out of surgery on Tuesday night, and the person of interest is in custody after a pursuit. The reason why I bring this up is because we really do need to talk again about a massive shift in our culture and what is going on, the ambush of those who provide us our security. And the shift is a troubling trend that is definitely worthy of conversation and needing of a critical debate. I've seen a shift among my college and high school students in conversation. I've seen the shift change among various counties, various demographic categories of economics, of privilege, non-privilege, just different categories in general. There's been a dramatic shift, I'd say, in the last decade, and I've seen a change in physical stance with one another in even a space of a classroom. The debates have increased in agitation. I've seen increased movement of agitation from just vocal dialogue to picking up their items such as their backpacks and books and things such as that, and of course their electronic devices, and actually exiting the room. I have been privy to information of dialogue that has started as a casual conversation over just a divided issue on something such as this, that's actually left a classroom, started in a hallway before ever even entering a classroom, and has actually extended beyond into social groupings in other areas, at restaurants, regular meeting places where youth gather, and erupted in other places, even in other dimensions such as social media. The separation that I have witnessed in physical movement of people, of how they sit away from one another or how they group with one another in the classroom, has been very, very distinct in the last decade, primarily I'd say the last 5 to 8 years. Has been very noticeable. With that, I have noticed a very distinct change in people's youth's desire to engage in classroom work. I have seen a drastic increase in the need, sort of a driven need, if you will, to want to engage in social conversation, debated issue conversation, versus academic work. The classroom, in my opinion, from the perspective of more youth, has become a place of activity more than academic pursuit. It's become more of an activism location, and that is definitely on the rise. Therefore, what I have noticed is I've become more, or my perceived role by students has been that of more moderator, or better yet, sort of entertainer than educator. So, on my perception, or where I stand even more guarded in my speech. My freedom of speech is more limited because, as anyone could imagine, I would then have to be much more guarded because the activity from the atmosphere is much more lively and much more active. And with that active behavior, even though I have a great rapport with my students and I feel very blessed to have that, that's a very cautious feeling is in my profession, because there is always a slight feeling that anything could get active in that environment at any time in a level of discussion that is very emotional, which is another issue. Most of what is happening these days is emotionally charged more than factually based. And that is where a lot of our conversations are being led to. Our role as educators, I believe, is to give the facts, to present the past, to open worlds to the youth of where to find data, historical knowledge, to impart wisdom, to try to guide with experience, so that the youth can use those tools. I always call it the toolbox, which again, this situation at Home Depot, I reflected on that concept of the toolbox. It kind of made me shudder a little bit, because we're trying to use tools and toolboxes, and I always tell my students about, we try so hard, all of us, to provide the wrenches and the hammers and the nails so that you all can go and build your projects for your futures. It's a type of artistry, as if you use your paintbrushes and your blank the freedom that we're all given in this nation is to have a blank canvas and our paints and our pencils and our easels, and we're given the beauty to go out and paint anything we wish, because that's just the beauty of what this is. And in some regards, history that's full of facts and dates and events is really a toolbox, and you carry that around with you, and you can build anything, any type of structure, and that is in itself a level of artistry. And that's what we're here to provide them. And so many don't want to carry it. They're given it and they're provided it, but they refuse to take it. They have it. It's there, but they say no, I don't want it. As in, I showed a great film yesterday, and it was an intriguing film, and it had a lot of very exciting parts to it that would be intriguing for most youth to watch. And I watched The Room, and I had three that were absolutely, completely lost in their phones. Were they lost in their actual phones? No, that's a box. As I always tell them, you're gone on superhighways called cyber networks, and those cyber networks that are in your boxes and that are held in your hands are taking you somewhere elsewhere, and you're traveling those superhighways elsewhere at a great speed, and most of you don't even know where you're heading. But they were completely and utterly gone. And I had a giant screen of a film showing that was very intriguing, and there were students that were very engaged, but others were completely lost in something else. So the toolbox was there. The film was raw footage that was very, very helpful for them to learn, and they chose not to take it. Now, in that conversation, again, back to the situation at hand in Dallas. Texas is my love, and very dear to my heart. And our first responders, our military, are very, very close to my heart. And I am concerned, tremendously concerned, as somebody who studies national security and who has studied military history at almost 4 degrees. I will say I have 3.25 degrees earned. I've immersed myself in this a long time. I've studied military theorists a long time: Sun Tzu, Clausewitz, Jomini, Liddell Hart, you name them, and Machiavelli, and they've all been very, very predictive, and they've been dead on all the way through about a society that changes enough will ultimately change its protectors, and the landscape, if it changes long enough, will infect its own securities. And we are seeing some troubling trends here that must be noted and debated and talked about. So, and as it being Dallas, that's close to my heart specifically. And the toolbox, the Home Depot, and that's near home, and these are our loves, and their families are to be cared for in this endeavor as well. When I went to bed last night, the last I had heard is that one of the Dallas police officers was put on artificial help to sustain his life while he waited on his mother to arrive to say last goodbyes, and that his life was not expected to be maintained, and that his partner was going to make it. I'm still searching to find out where we stand this morning on that situation, and that I did see too on social media this morning too a lot of outpouring of love and the word family, and that we are a family, and we are truly a family. And for somebody who's attended funerals of fallen police officers and firefighters and military in this area, it is unbelievable what it is to see when first responders from all over the country come to one of our own, motorcycles and fire trucks and police cars from everywhere, and despite any weather conditions, and how they arrive en masse and stand, and how everyone stands in uniform and sweltering heat and full wool uniforms, and motorcycles and pouring rain, and it's something that it's just unbelievable. And it is a family, and that family cannot be broken. And that tradition and protocol cannot be broken, and the sounds of the bagpipes and the drums and everything else. And this is what Machiavelli spoke about, and this is what the theorists warned about. And if you break morale, which it has not been broken, thank God that the brotherhood and the sisterhood and the strength of the cords that bind that together has held so firmly. But the ambushes and the police officers, and it was Tennessee, that are eating their lunch, and they are ambushed at lunch on their break and lose their lives, and they have families, and it just is, this is a awful shift in our culture, a culture shift that cannot be a shift that can be sustained. And we must bring this to some sort of resolution. What is that solution? I do not know. So I'm bringing this conversation to the microphone to initiate that to wherever it needs to go, because I don't have a solution to that. The only place I do know to go with this at this moment is to say this. My classrooms are divided. They are dividing widely. They are dividing. I'm concerned. On the outset, it looks normal. On the outset, it looks okay. On the outset, we can all keep smiling about it. But I've been at this for 26 years, and I know better. I know better that if a light switch goes off fast enough, and we had a dividing line that broke us on anything specific, something very unique, something very clear, that took us to, you draw the line here and we draw the line here, and everybody was in the streets for whatever reason, they would be divided instantaneously. And they would draw from me as well, because it's that uneasy in these times. I do know that we have the quiet minority that have stopped speaking up, and they've stopped raising their hands for the last decade, and they don't ask questions, and they used to. This type of student that I used to hear from, and they used to have lots to say, and they had lots to talk about, and now I say, well, does anybody have anything to say about this? Silence. Does anybody want to ask any more questions? Silence. Does anybody want to recommend any ideas? Silence. So I thought to myself, and the writing that's coming out of our schools, the writing capabilities have degraded tremendously because of the school productions of what we've been dealing with, and I think that is definitely not for the fault of our local schools, that I think I'm doing the best they can. This is just a national problem, but I thought, well, I want to get them writing a bit more. I want to get some writing going, and I don't want to throw research papers on them because they've done enough. They've met their qualifications for the course, so I'm going to have them just write some letters, and maybe they could, especially since I've had the highest group ever that I've interceded to get them to counseling that I've ever dealt with in the last decade. Happily so, to help them get to really, really great counseling services, and the counseling services being available, I think is a phenomenal asset as well. But the ones that have come to me asking for guidance to find that help has been the highest I've ever encountered. I thought, well, this might be a little way to help them just, not for me to perceive anything in their lives, but for them to just maybe get a little bit off their chests and relax a little bit. I presented them with some choices of some letters to write. And the choices they were given were just some oddities. I thought I'll let them write some letters. Plus, they could get some experience in writing letters, real letters. So their choices were Dear American Flag, Dear Texas Flag, Dear President of the United States, Dear U.S. Congress, Dear, when the students walked out of their schools, which is a big thing after the shooting in Florida, which was a terrible shakeup, of course, for everyone. Dear younger generation of Americans, and they had several choices. Oh, dear active duty service member, dear U.S. veteran. Then they could write, they had choices on some movies that they could watch. They had several choices of multiple choices of movies. They could go see, they could see Glory, Lone Survivor. There were several choices that they had, many choices of movies. And I like to see what they end up choosing for themselves. And a myriad of choices there. And then they could do a write-up. And so this morning, based on what's happened in Dallas, I thought I would bring a few of their papers here because that's where I found them. So they turned in the papers, and I started to read them, and I went, there's where they are. The students that had disappeared, the ones that had stopped raising their hands, the ones that had stopped wanting to talk in front of their peers, they spoke in their letters. And I was so pleased that they hadn't left us. They were still here. And I think what has happened is they haven't gone away. They are still here, and as a very, very proud teacher, I am proud to let you know they are still here. It gives me so much hope, and this is only a sampling of what I have. I have a stack of papers. So when they sit back in their chairs and they're aloof and cool, and they just don't care, and they have nothing to say, it's a pretense. They are in survival. They're in a survival mode because the culture is shifting all around them. They are the ones that are in this battle more than anyone. The shift is happening around them. It's the fog is coming in over them. This is their American dream. Time. This is their time to fly. This is their time to start taking on the world. And they watch this. Their heroes that they grew up admiring are being ambushed. They are the ones considering becoming a law enforcement officer. They are the ones that wanted to always be a firefighter. They are the ones who have the dreams of the picket fence and the 2-car garage, and they don't know if they're going to get it. They're the ones that don't know if college is worth it. They're the ones that don't know about anything anymore. And their peers are dividing from them. Some of their buddies are picking up their backpacks and their stuff and walking out because somebody said something about the Second Amendment and they didn't agree with each other. Johnny Joe next to him reaches into his backpack and my God, he might pull out an AK. They don't know. They're not totally sure. Times are changing. Anyways, I found them in their letters, and I just want to share some of them this morning. Here's a letter. Dear active duty law enforcement, words can't even describe how grateful I am, as well as the others around me. Who knows what the country would look like if we don't have people like yourself? Your line of work is very tough. Only a few would bother and do something courageous like that, what you do in your career. Many people don't understand how stressful your job truly is. It's not just sitting in your car and handing out speeding tickets. It's more than that. Law enforcement is a life-threatening career, and every day is a risk. In your current society, law enforcement is being threatened more than ever. Police ambushes are on the rise, and many believe it's due to the racial tension between blacks and whites. It's between everybody. We're all going down. Regardless of what's going on, the law enforcement supporters will always outweigh the haters. Additionally, there have been many incidents in my life where active duty law enforcement officers came to the scene and ensured peace. Also, I have personally been pulled over by an officer while driving, and it was a very pleasant experience. Instead of giving me a ticket for my reckless behavior, the officer had a heart-to-heart conversation with me about my actions. This instance in particular convinced me that active duty law enforcement is only around to keep surrounding cities safe and enforce rules and regulations, but also to teach us, like being a parent. In conclusion, I am very grateful to be surrounded by brave men and women who risk their lives every single day to ensure that my peers and me are safe, because a lot of us are just fools. Here's another student letter. Dear U.S. Veteran, I see you. I honor you. I respect you. I'll never understand the pressure of taking a life or being overseas constantly in danger, not being able to go home, not be able to make a phone call when I just miss people. I'll never know the feeling of the rigors of training that you did, or the late nights or early mornings you pulled while I was enjoying a basketball game in Los Angeles. I'll never understand leaving my family behind or taking care of myself, wondering every day where they are, or will I even get to go home. I'll never understand the countless sacrifices that you make every day and the many times you put your life on the line so that I can have a chance of living a happy and successful life, even being lazy sometimes. I will tell you, I will always do my part to stand by you and do the little things like taking part in the economy and living my best that I can. I'll give thanks every day, and I'll always honor you. The Bible says true love is that one would lay down their life for another, and every day you're willing to pay that price. I can't believe it. You show true love for your country and to protect people, even me, and you've never even met me. To those in the background and not in the field, I see you, but I don't even know you. The mechanics of the airplanes, the cooks, the nurses, and those of you on computers all day long. You are valued, you are special. Respect is one of the hardest things to earn in our culture, and you are a veteran. You will always deserve 100% of it and more. You go, and I don't have to. How can I thank you? I hope that better health care and benefits come your way, because what you get is wrong. It's so wrong. If you come back okay, it's like you're not okay when you go to that, because you deserve more. Watching movies like The Hurt Locker, 13 Hours, and Lone Survivor have shown me a small glimpse of what you do and go through, and that brave acts you are willing to do. And for that, I cannot tell you thank you enough. My very, very best. Here's another. Dear active duty member of the United States Armed Forces, first off, I'd like to thank you for your service. Thank you for putting our country first over yourself. You could have chosen an easier route. You could have chosen to be at home with your family and watch your children grow up. You could have chosen a career path that earns a lot more money and financial stability. You could have chosen to always be home for Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year, birthdays, anniversaries. Instead, you chose America, and that means a great deal to each and every citizen that walks around freely in our country. To the people that actually understand. America could not pay you enough for all that you encounter just in the daily grind. What makes you all so special is that you don't do it for praise or the debt that some people would think that you would actually be owed. There's a greater purpose behind what you do and a drive inside you that not everyone has, which is why not everyone has what it takes to do it. Therefore, no one has the right to judge you negatively. The worst feeling must be to sacrifice and do so much for your people and to have it so much taken for granted at home, especially after you get home. Keep your head up high, please. Remember everything that you've gone through. Some people may not understand it, but it isn't their job to understand it. Don't ever give up. Always keep remembering, whether it be to picture a picture, a letter from a loved one, or even a Bible scripture. Don't ever give up on the Bible, and don't let anyone tell you you can't pick it up or read it. Also, don't ever forget your brothers and sisters that are serving with you. They've been with you and by your side through your entire journey, and they are experiencing everything you are. Again, thank you. I love you. Here's a letter about education. Dear school, are you even worth it? You've taken up more than half my life. Before I could even spell my full name, I was already behind a desk with a pencil in my hand, taking that first class of more than many to come. If I could go back to that first day of pre-K, I'd tell myself to hold on tight and wear as much seatbelts as I could before this roller coaster wasn't even going to end any time soon. Just as I thought I could see a light at the end of the tunnel, somehow I ended up back into an underground maze that I couldn't even seem to get myself out of. What a mess. What a life. School. What are you doing to me? Do you enjoy watching me suffer? Do you enjoy watching this long, hard life of years of sleep deprivation, test anxiety, late nights, early mornings? I'm always doing something wrong. Somehow, the closer I am to being done, the more I feel that I am stuck with you and will somehow always be reunited with you again in another day and another school year to come. As much as I completely despise you, school, and wish for you to completely obliviate from the earth, I have learned a lot from you, and I hate to admit it. What I've learned from you is not what I was studying for all these years, or that I have to get a perfect GPA or all A's I've gotten on tests. I've learned from you how to work hard for something that will take years and sometimes decades to achieve. I've learned from you what it takes to be committed to something and not to give up, even in the toughest moments. I've learned how to come back from failures, how to be humble when I succeeded, even when I failed and fell on my face. I've learned how to deal with people, even when I was treated badly. Now, we're going to part for good. Finally, I'm going to graduate and be done with this. And I'll know that forever I'll be prepared for anything to come. I hate to say this, but thank you, school. Sincerely, student. Lone Survivor. This movie is about a group of United States SEAL soldiers that went on a mission to kill a Taliban leader in Afghanistan, but instead were caught. Ridiculously outnumbered, all the SEALs lost their lives with the exception of one, Luttrell. At the beginning of the movie, there are many scenes that seem to document how the soldiers receive their mental and physical training. I believe this is an important scene because it shows the hard training that most people know because they're told, but not fully understand because they haven't been through that sort of treatment. Many people underestimate the importance of military spending or the military at all. They don't understand that these veterans and soldiers fight daily to ensure our American freedom. Currently, in social media, I've seen many people criticizing the military because they have no business, quote, in other people's wars, end quote. Seeing films like Lone Survivor, where they are fighting to survive the battle, shoot, get shot at, fall from cliffs into rocks, lose fingers, break bones, apart from hundreds of other painful injuries and other things that go on, could potentially change critics' minds and grow affection and respect for the people that do and suffer unexplainable things for the good of us Americans and other people around the world. Here's another. Dear younger generations of America, it is our time to raise the torch and carry on the tradition that our parents have left us. It is time for us to come together and figure out the world's problems. It is time for us to move on. We need to be the ones that lead the way. We also need to take care of our international conflicts and the future generations so they don't have to worry about it. One thing that I think is keeping us away from grabbing the torch and running with it is how sheltered our generation is. I think we are like this because of the technology that we have now, and it continues to advance with every year that passes us by. I also think that the internet is doing the most to keep my generation sheltered from the outside world. I will admit that it's a big, big world out there. But if we just turn off the technology and step outside, I think we would be surprised of what the world would offer us. One thing that I think we need to do is grow organizations that will help make the world a better place. It could be as easy as starting a recycling program in our own communities, or it could be as big as starting a local government, or being part of our local government. Anything like that would make it a better place. All I know is that it starts with us. We need to be the leaders of tomorrow. I don't want to become a wasted generation. I want to be able to look back when I'm old and crippled and think about the good that we have done for this world and the future generations. I hope that we can give our future a good setup moving forward. Here's another. Dear U.S. Government, Congress, please start doing your jobs. Your bickering and arguing is going nowhere. Our country elected you because we thought you could do your job. Instead of doing your job, you run for re-election. I hope you realize that you are not doing your duty for your country so that you might change for the better. Just because you don't agree on one thing doesn't mean you should put everything on hold until you get your way. Your shutdowns are ridiculous. See this as a warning. It means you are failing at your job. So please get to work. Dear flag of the United States of America, through hard times and good times, you have always been there to bring unity to our nation. The stripes you bear represent our beginnings, but your stars represent our present. This flag is something that will always tie every American back to our core values. You are something that makes our country unique. When flown around the country, you remind us all the ups and downs our people have been through. You have flown all around the world, showing us and everyone what freedom and independence represents. You are beautiful. I want to thank you for always reminding me why I am able to live the life I do. I hope you continue to inspire our future generations and help our current peoples to stay strong through the thick and the thin. Just a couple more, and we'll wrap it up for today. Dear American Dream, what is the American dream? I wonder. The American dream is the belief held by generation after generation since the beginning, over decades, by waves of immigrants that have come here to start from anywhere and become anything. The American dream is not over, but it does need help, a lot of help. In America, you can rise up from the bottom and get to the top. Hard work and dedication is what America is built on. As an immigrant, I fully believe in the American dream. My dad came from nothing. He was born in the Philippines, emigrated to America to a better life, and we became something. He would tell me stories of days he wouldn't sleep or eat, and he would study and work hard on projects for work. He busted his butt to get where he is today. He provided for his family. Now we all together are living as citizens in the United States. It pains me to see the American dream declining so. In my opinion, everyone feels that they are entitled to something anymore. Just because they live in America means they don't have to work. That's ridiculous. They can always rely on the government for help or for money. What's that? Where did their backbone go? Getting help from the government is fine, but relying on them all of the time? That's not the American dream. Most Americans have become lazy. Being at the top takes work. You can't get there by being lazy. We have to show the younger generation what it means to work hard. The more we'll rely on government, the more we will never get anywhere. If everyone relies on the government, nothing will happen. The engine won't run. We need to show a better example to the younger generation so that when they grow up, they know what this is. If you put your mind to it, you can achieve anything. I know. I've seen it. I've lived it. I believe it 100%. Hard work is hard to find, but there is still a small amount of Americans that prove that the American dream is alive. The American dream is alive and well, and it does and needs strengthening. We have to. It's like a dimming light. We need to thank the people before it's too late, and we need to work on this. We need to show it respect instead of throwing it away. The American dream is alive. We just need to go out there and grab it. The Secrets of Benghazi. 13 hours. The movie. First, I want to start by expressing my appreciation to all the soldiers that defended Benghazi. I have family and friends that are in the military, Air Force, Navy, Army. I am thankful that I can live my everyday life feeling safe with the people I love. I was really excited for this movie. Growing up, I wanted to join the military, but was never allowed to by my parents. But I still have great respect for everyone in this field. Watching this movie just shows me that I have to be thankful for all the sacrifice that our soldiers have made to keep our nation safe. The only question is why? Why does America have to play Big Brother all the time to countries that don't want us? Why was I watching the movie all the way through and we're pushing and helping and doing things for everybody, but we were being pushed away? Why are we so unappreciated? In my opinion, countries that don't want our help should not get our help. Why is this happening? Why was there such a failure to help them, to stand for them? They were in desperate need of our help. To me, if our soldiers are in desperate need of our help, no matter what it is, no matter what the call, we are to help them, no matter the consequences. It is our government's job to help them. I am still thankful for them, grateful for them. I am sorry this happened. Watching this based on true stories and the events that occurred make me so proud and so sorry. They are heroes to me. And I'll end here again by just saying for our Dallas fallen and those that are struggling and in our culture today, we can get through this, and I appreciate everybody being with me today. And I just want to close with this. An analysis on the movie, I Can Only Imagine. And I can only imagine that song affected me personally, because me personally going through struggles and strife, managing my 2 children on a very low income as a teacher and on a single income, and I could say, worrying about the changes in the youth culture and not understanding why so much had changed because I love my students like my own kids, honestly. And, I remember being in the kitchen with headphones on and listening to that song. And I started dancing in my kitchen, and I felt empowered and strengthened. And it's a very powerful thing. And so I added I Can Only Imagine to the movie list, and I told my students that they could go see it at the theater for credit if they wanted to add that to their movie list. And I was excited to get this review. And I'll end here because I think it's meaningful today. While this movie had nothing to do with history, I think you allowing us to go see it was very encouraging and spiritually encouraging. Anyway, I got to read that again. I think to see it was encouraging and spiritually encouraging. So I like that. While I have been in this class, it has grown my interest in history and also an appreciation for life I have. Physically, in this class, learning about history has made me feel like complaining about the way things are for me in my personal life is ridiculous compared to the way things are for Jews during Nazi Germany. I am living like a king and should be grateful to live in a country that allows me to be who I want to be and live the way I want to be. I live a very privileged life compared to the way things were in America coming up, and especially compared to the way things are in other countries to this day. When I watched the movie, I had no idea what to expect or any clue on the backstory of the band or Bart. I grew up in a family with dysfunction, but honestly, who has not? While I feel that I can relate on the emotional abuse, I can say that I didn't grow up in a physically abusive atmosphere. I feel that I can also relate on the aim to please my parents or people around me. I feel that I've been put in competitive atmospheres all my life, with sports, the public school system, and just life in general. I think his aim to be willing to try new things was admirable, as well as being in the Glee Club. I actually wish the movie would have gone into more detail about how he exactly became a Christian. It seemed like he went to church one more time to sing, and then the next thing you know, he was singing Christian songs. There is lots of pressure in modern Christianity today to be a certain way. Maybe not as regular attendees, but the expectations and lifestyle is something that is hard to live up to sometimes as a leader with anything. Always watching everything you do, even in your classrooms or how you dress or anything in society, even down to the latte you order. I find it very honorable that even after he was told he should go home and not try anymore, that he realized that he should go home and solve his problems. I think that's what makes or breaks most people. They either choose to confront the root issues of their problems, or they keep doing what they are doing and choose not to accept that they can't do this. It's even more insane to know that the band was able to navigate through the music industry and not make everything happen for themselves because they believed in it all. The relationship Bart had with his dad was beautiful in a way. The way he said, if Jesus can work change, then through the two of them, then he can do anything. That's the beautiful part about everything. Everything can be flipped through faith and hope. Faith and hope can fix anything. The movie was so inspirational to me, but also a revelation about who I am as a person and as someone trying to navigate through a really, really crazy world sometimes. And I've learned to personally choose to follow Jesus as a young adult in a world that really wants nothing to do with him right now. Well, with that, I'm going to end the show. Thanks again for joining me with Off the Grid with Sara Overal, and have a blessed day.